Hello YouTube, my name is Tyler and this is the second half of my August wrap-up. If you watched my previous video from 2 weeks ago, I kind of explained what I'm doing. I'm doing some vlog style check-ins for every book I finished this month. I am checking in at the end of every book I read and giving you my thoughts and feelings on it. I read 9 books in the first half of August, and it is now August 16th, and I have finished the first book of the second half, which is Blackwater by Jeanette Arroyo and Ren Graham. This is a book about a track guy and like a nerdy sick guy, and a friendship that develops between them and some spooky stuff that happens in the town that they live in. This was 3 stars for me. This really just did not do a whole lot for me. It was like halfway through before anything really interesting started to happen, and I just like didn't feel like I really understood the relationship between Tony and Eli in like the way that it started, when all of a sudden Tony was like wanting to hang out with Eli. It almost felt like I was like in the middle of a story like there was context before and I was thrown into the middle of a story that I hadn't read the first half of. But I don't think this is like a series or anything, so I mean, it was fine. I didn't hate it, but it didn't do a whole lot for me. I had been reading it very slowly, and then I just decided to go ahead and finish it today because I just wanted to finish it and not have to think about it anymore. So that's the first book of the second half of August. I'll see you when I have more thoughts about a different book. Bye! Howdy! I have finally replaced this light bulb, so I do not have to film in the closet at night. So it is August 17th, and I have finished a book. I read Eddie Richter is Not Alone by Rachel Handler. This is Daniel Handler's sister. I picked this up just because I was looking for a short book to read on my phone, and this was like the only one that was available that was under 200 pages at my libraries. That was also on my TBR because I wanted to knock something off my TBR if I was going to be reading something random. Anyways, so I gave this 3 stars. I really do not have a lot to say about this. This book is about Eddie Richter. Her father has Alzheimer's, and so the book is kind of about her dealing with that, but her father also dies, and it deals with the fallout of that. And this really didn't do a whole lot for me. It was just alright. Like, there was nothing bad about it, but I just didn't care. I do think this probably would work for some people that are into like the sad girl sort of genre. It's not like super unhinged, but I do think there were some people that would probably like that because they like the sad girl thing. I need my sad girls to be just a little more unhinged, and I just need like a little bit more where this just was like, I don't know, it just didn't totally work for me. There was like parts, little bits and pieces that made me laugh that were random, like just random little bits. So anyways, that's my thoughts, feelings on the situation. I'm gonna keep it short because I really don't have a whole lot to say about it. So I will see you when I finish another book. Bye. Hello. It is August 19th and I am DNFing a book. I am DNFing Into the Sublime by Kate A. Borman. I kind of knew this was a possibility when I picked this up. I picked it up because I am like just obsessed. It's so hard with the reflection. I'm just obsessed with this cover. It is incredible. and I was really hoping I was gonna love this so I would have an excuse to buy it. However, it is YA, so I knew there was a chance that I would not like this. And so I am DNFing it. DNFing it. I'm like 50 pages in and I'm just like struggling. I'm not like hating it, but I like just cannot focus on it, and I cannot tell if it's a me issue or a book issue. And part of it is probably, it definitely sounds like a YA book when you're reading it. Which like is just not my favorite thing anymore these days. And so I was just already like, oh, this is probably going to be a 3-star experience. And I have read like 4 3-star books. Like I haven't had a 4-star book in a while. It's been a lot of 3 stars and a 2-star thrown in there. And so I'm just going to DNF it because I just like don't want to waste my time on a 3-star YA book. Even though the cover is beautiful, the reason I'm reading it was I was hoping I would love it so I could buy it. But if it's going to be 3 stars, it's a waste of time because I'm not going to buy a 3-star YA book. So unfortunately, this just didn't work out for me. I wouldn't say it's bad in any way. It probably is very satisfying for the people who enjoy YA, but I need a spectacular YA to keep me intrigued. So anyways, that's it. I will check in when I have other book things to talk about. Hello, it is still August 19th and I have finished another book. Well, I didn't finish a book earlier, but I finished a book now. I listened to, what is it called? A Molecule Away from Madness, Tales of the Hijacked Brain. Who's it by? What? Sarah Manning Peskin. 3 stars. This month has gone from being a very good month to a very middling month. Anyways, this was fine. I enjoyed it just fine. I was able to listen to it at 2.5 speed, so that was also nice to have a very quick audiobook. I was expecting this to be about mental illness. And as you know, I never read book descriptions, and so I'm always surprised or disappointed because my expectations are never correct. This is actually more about brain disease and neurodegeneration, I guess. So it's like a lot of Alzheimer's, dementia, Kuru, things that attack the brain that are not mental illness. I mean, it was interesting. I feel like I learned some stuff. It just was like not what I was expecting and just like not really one of my interests. Honestly, I think I'm probably going to stop trying to find stuff about mental illness just because they never seem to work out for me. I think this was a recommendation I got from Twitter. So I wasn't specifically looking for it or like searching for mental illness books, but I feel like I keep finding myself reaching for them recently. And that's a cattail, and just being kind of let down. So I think I'm just gonna find other things to reach for and read instead. So yeah, that's my opinion. Bye. Hello, it is August 21st and I have finished a book. I have finished The Bad Beginning, the first book in A Series of Unfortunate Events series by Lemony Snicket / Daniel Handler. I don't really know how I want to rate these necessarily. It's very hard to rate these as like books that I grew up on and are like near and dear to my heart. Especially because when I rate series, I tend to rate them in comparison to one another and not necessarily as just like my straight up experience, just because it's so hard to read a book in a series and not compare them to one another. So like, I don't really know like how to rate this in a way that is useful to other people. So this is under 200 pages, but it took me forever to read just because I was reading it like 10 pages at a time. This is a children's book, if you don't know. It is about the Baudelaire orphans. Their parents die at the beginning of this, and then they become orphans, and they are sent to live with a distant relative named Count Olaf, who is trying to steal their fortune. And things happen. These books are well known for like having a very active narrator in Lemony Snicket, and for talking about how like these are not happy books. And so, you know, it starts with their parents dying and it ends with Count Olaf escaping. Otherwise there wouldn't be 12 more books after it. There was something that really connected with me with these books, that they talk about how this does not have a happy ending. Don't expect a happy ending. And the way it treats its readers with like respect and treats them like adults, that really connected with me as a child. I really feel like these books say a lot about what type of reader I am, in that I like the I don't know, I like a narrator that talks to the reader. I like a very immersive alternative universe, without just being like overkill, because this is like a very different world. It's not like sci-fi, it's like our world, but it's just different, and it's got a weird timelessness to it while being like old at the same time. It's very hard to explain. Tiger Cat has showed up. Come on. Anyways, I've been recording clips as I read this, and I think there will be a mini vlog about it, where I have some other thoughts and go into a little more detail and read some bits and pieces. Anyways, so this is the first one. It's probably honestly the only one I'm going to read this month. I was expecting to read these much quicker than I have been, but it is what it is. Alright, I'll see y'all when I finish another book. Hello, it is August 22nd and I have finished another book. I just finished reading Whisper Down the Lane by Clay Chapman. It's another 3-star book. I was thinking maybe it was going to be like 3.5, but I don't know, like the last 10 pages or so just kind of killed the vibe for me. And there's like a letter at the end that I didn't 100% love. So this is a book that it's a fiction book that is based on the Satanic Panic of the 1980s. It is about a kid named Sean and a man named Richard. The Richard story is in 2013 and the Sean story is in 1983. And so it's about the Satanic Panic in the 80s, and then it seems to be having some sort of reoccurrence in 2013. There were a lot of details of the Satanic Panic that I did like in this. It was very intriguing to me. And at the end of the book there is like a list of like an annotated source list, and so I actually screen capped that, and I'll probably take a look at some of those books that are listed, that the author Clay Chapman used as kind of reference and influence for this novel. However, I went into this thinking it was actually going to be a horror book, and in the beginning I guess there's a little bit of horror, I will say there is like animal mutilation and death in this, 2 instances of it, which were probably like the scariest part of the book for me, the most horror related. But mostly this is kind of like just like a suspense book, I guess like psychological suspense, because you're trying to figure out what happened in 1983 and its connection to 2013. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to figure out how I wanted to rate this, just because I've just read so many 3-star books, and while this didn't blow me out of the water, it didn't feel quite as boring as some of the other 3-star reads I had. So I was thinking it was going to be 3.5 maybe, But like I said, the letter at the end kind of killed it for me. But that's really all I have to say about this. I think some people would probably like this. And I do think it's like an interesting little like fictionalization of the Satanic Panic. But like, I don't think I'll be thinking about this book after this point, especially just because it was not the really creepy, spooky story I had anticipated. So yeah, I'll talk to you when I finish another book. Bye. Howdy, it is August 24th and I finished a book last night, but I was already in bed, so I was not gonna film. So I finished Baby Bear Bakery. This is the first part of it. This is like a little manga. Let me just read the back. Welcome to Baby Bear's Bakery, a new patisserie run by a bear cub. While Bear may be a fine baker, he isn't much of a business beast. So he still has plenty to learn. But with the support of his devoted customers, he's ready to bake his dreams come true. So yeah, it's just about a little cake shop run by a little baby bear. It's really cute. I gave it 3.5 stars, so it got rounded up to 4 on Goodreads. The bear was cute. There were some cute comics in there. The one where he goes to visit the farm was my favorite. But I don't know, the way that the bear's language was written just like grated on me. It was the like, oh, I'm just a widow bear, like the W's or the R's and the L's were sometimes W's, and I don't know, it just grated on me. But it was very cute, like it was drawn very cute, and there were some cute things in there. So yep, that's my thoughts and feelings on it. I will talk to y'all when I have finished another book. Bye. Hi, hello, it is August 25th. It is late. And I have just finished listening to I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. People have been talking about this book. And I have to say it's really good. I gave it 4 stars. How do I want to talk about this? First, I think I'll start with a content warning. If you suffer from disordered eating, she does describe her binging and purging techniques. What is the word I'm looking for? Habits is the word I'm looking for in this book in relative detail. So if that is something that would be like triggering to you, I would probably stay away from this. That is like the biggest chunk of this book. Is her, especially like the last half, especially after her mother dies, it's a lot of her struggling with her eating disorder and then trying to overcome that, and it just talks about it a lot. So if someone talking about their habits is triggering to you, I really would not reach for this. But it's really good. It basically covers like more or less her whole life in the very abusive, straight up relationship with her mother. But it's not, you know, sometimes you read memoirs about abusive parents and the person knows from the start that this parent is abusive to them and they are trying to get out of that relationship. This is a interesting look at a relationship, a mother-daughter relationship, where she didn't fully recognize the harm her mother was causing her, and she loved her mother, and the things she was willing to do for her mother were distressing. And the things that her mom forced her to do, namely, I mean, like, she forced her to become an actress, a child actress, because she wanted to be an actress. And it was like not a thing she ever expressed any interest in doing on her own. This was very much her mother wanted her to be an actress. And Jeanette just wanted to make her happy. And so there is a lot of like listening to her story and her talking about the way she loved her mother, but seeing it juxtaposed against these unreasonable expectations and demands, and yeah, it's hard to listen to at some points, and it's just like sad. Like it's kind of upsetting to listen to, but despite the like heavy concepts or like the heavy topics at the heart of this, I feel like a lot of people were talking about specifically the creator of iCarly, that she only refers to as the creator in this, but we all know it's Dan Schneider. Those were the things that were getting the big headlines, but she doesn't really talk about it that much. Like, this is not necessarily an expose on like Nickelodeon or how Hollywood treats child actresses. It's obviously about child acting, but it's more so from like the familial pressures of child acting. That's not to say like she wasn't facing other external pressures, and like it does get talked about, but like this is much more about her relationship with her mother. It's also interesting because it reminded me of Crying in H Mart. That was obviously a very different book, but her mother did have cancer. I don't know, some of the like waiting for her and watching her die and like kind of sifting through your memories and relationship with a person after they're gone just kind of put me in that mindset a little bit. This one was a lot less like difficult and heavy for me because like it's a very different situation what she was in and how her mother died. Not quite the incredibly emotionally heavy situation that Michelle Zauner went through with her mother and her family. But it did kind of give me some of those vibes. The thing that I found most interesting in this was listening to her talk about her therapy and the way she was getting in touch with understanding her own wants, needs, desires, like mostly around food, but like in general. I mean, I'm currently in therapy. I've been in therapy multiple times over my life, but I would say this is probably like the most in-depth and extensive therapy I've done. And I don't know, it really struck a chord with me listening to her talk about it. I don't know, gave me a little bit of hope, I guess. I don't know, just seeing how things work for people and like the breakthroughs they're making and stuff like that. Like, I'm not in a terrible place currently. I've made my own breakthroughs and whatnot, but I don't know, that was the part that like really shone for me, I guess. Anyways, I was not expecting to talk about this so long, so I will leave it at that. I gave it 4 stars. I would suggest you check it out. The audiobook was really good, but I think it would probably be a good read too. The chapters were all pretty short, so if you struggle with like physically reading memoirs, I still think this one would be a decent read. But the audiobook is excellent. It is narrated by Jeanette McCurdy, so I always love that in a memoir audiobook. Otherwise, I will leave it at that. Bye. Hello, it is August 26th and I have just finished reading Where the Dead Sit Talking by Brandon Hobson. This I'm pretty sure I got from a Book Riot email. I think it might have been on sale on Amazon somewhat recently. And I really don't know what intrigued me about it. I'll read the summary and then I'll tell you my thoughts. A masterwork of spare and hard-earned lyricism, set in a rural Oklahoma foster home. With his single mother in jail, Sequoia, a 15-year-old Cherokee boy, is placed in foster care with the Trout family. Literally and figuratively scarred by his mother's years of substance abuse, Sequoia keeps mostly to himself, living with his emotions pressed deep below the surface, at least until he meets 17-year-old Rosemary, another youth staying with the Trouts. Sequoia and Rosemary bond over their shared Native American background and tumultuous paths through the foster care system, but as Sequoia's feelings towards Rosemary deepen, the precariousness of their lives and the scars of their past threaten to undo them both. So Brandon Hobson is an Indigenous author, and I had talked about how I wanted to read more Indigenous works. I haven't read any the last 2 months, so I'm glad I managed to get one read in August. This is like a 3.5 for me. The description of it being sparse is pretty accurate. It's a very internal book, not a lot of action or plot in this until maybe the end. There's a little bit of something that happens, and the big event as in the big plot point that happens at the very end is basically foreshadowed and told in the first chapter, so you know it's coming. But this is really just what is Sequoia feeling while he lives at this foster family's house, and that's about it. I didn't feel super attached to Sequoia, but it was enjoyable enough. It was easy to read. It was interesting at points, some of the things that Sequoia would talk about. I felt like there was some gender stuff that was going on in there, but was never explicitly explained. I don't know. It wasn't a bad book. It just was not blow you out the water, or blow me out the water, I guess. I feel books like this tend to be kind of hit or miss for me, because I typically like a plot book, but I have started to learn I do kind of like these internal character books, but I don't know exactly what it is that makes one of these internal character books work for me. So they tend to be I either love or hate this, and this kind of just ended up being kind of in the middle, leaning towards positive, but yeah, that's about all I have to say about it. If you like character books, internal books, I think you might like this, if that's your jam. Otherwise, I will leave it at that. Bye. Hello, it is August 27th and I have finished reading Eat the Rich by Sarah Gailey, and it was illustrated by Pius Bach and Roman Titov. I apologize to the two illustrators. The AC. Anyways, I had no idea that Sarah Gailey had done work on any comics before. So when I was scrolling Hoopla last night, because I've been kind of in the mood for some graphic novels, because I really haven't read very many comics and graphic novels this year, especially compared to the last couple years. I was reading at least one graphic novel / comic collection at least one a month, and I really have not been doing that this year. So I had been feeling the itch and urge to read some this month, especially because my reading has really slowed down the second half of August. I think it's picked up a little bit since then, but I think that was what got me craving to read some graphic novels. Anyways, so I noticed this and I was like, ooh, I didn't know Sarah Gailey worked on a comic. So I picked it up. It is about rich people in Bluffs Falls, something like that. A girl named Joey is going to meet her boyfriend Astor's parents, and they're very rich, and they have a scandalous secret, and I think it's spoiled in the plot description, but they're cannibals. So I gave this 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed this a lot. However, if you look at the Goodreads reviews, everyone talks about how rushed the ending is, and it really truly is. It is only 5 issues long, and honestly, it needed a couple more to flush out the ending, because all of a sudden, so the first 4 issues are great, and then all of a sudden the last issue is like just wrapping everything up, but like, I don't know, it just like didn't quite make sense. And I'm sure that probably had something to do with like just what comic distributors were willing to give them, to like how many issues they were willing to give them to do this story. This could have been 5 stars for me if the ending had been given more time, and I realize that's probably not their fault, but it probably needed, I don't know, at least 3 more issues, I would think. Honestly, something doubled 10 issues probably would have been perfect. If it had been a full, like, complete graphic novel, I think that also could have worked for the story that everyone was trying to tell. Overall, I really liked it. I liked that it, by the name Eat the Rich, you can kind of tell what the vibe is, like what is going on. It's got very big like Get Out vibes, and I really, really loved the art. I love the main character Joey, and the way she is written, and just like the voice of Joey I just loved. It just really is just the end. The end was so rushed. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I'm really glad I read it. I had no idea it existed. But I just wish it had a better ending. Alright, I will talk to you later. Bye. Greetings. It is technically September, but I am now able to record the final stats of this reading month. So in August, I read 18 books. That is so many books. I have never read that many books before. This month, or this year, has been my best reading year ever. I have just been reading a ton, and I think that is because of this channel, so I'm making sure I am reading on a regular basis. I still kind of need to find a little bit of a balance where I'm not feeling like I need to be reading constantly for this channel, or pushing myself to read stuff I don't want to read because I have a video I need to make. So I'm still trying to find that balance, but the fact that I'm DNFing more, I think, is helping in that regard. So I DNF'd 5 books this month, which is by far the most books I've DNF'd in a month. DNF'd a lot of stuff. 2 of those were soft DNFs though. I soft DNF'd The 3 Body Problem, and I soft DNF'd something else that I soft DNF'd. I don't know. I feel like there were 2 soft DNFs in there and I can't remember. They're not all written here, so. The average stats were it took me about 6 days to read a book. which makes sense to me. All of these are looking like week-ish reads. Some were quicker and some were longer. And then my average rating was 3.4 stars per book. I did not include the bad beginning rating in this average just because I have read it so many times, and I didn't want that to throw off statistics in any way. And speaking of 3 stars, I read 7 3-star books in a row. 9, just like straight up half of the books were not that great. I read a 3-star, then I had a 2-star, then the 7 3-star reads. But I finished the month out on a strong note with 4 4-star reads in a row. So, it was a little bit of a mixed bag this month. And definitely while I was going through all those 3 stars, I was like, I just want to read a good book, like an actual real good book. So eventually I got there. Anyways, so my favorite book I read this month was Allow Me to Retort, A Black Guy's Guide to the Constitution by Elie Mystal. That was the only 5-star book I read this month. Really enjoyed it. Had so much fun. Let's see, what else? And then I guess I need to talk about my least favorite, which honestly was probably The Luminous Dead. The Luminous Dead and Lolita both got 2 stars, but I feel like I got a lot more out of Lolita than I did from The Luminous Dead. I was just mostly bored through The Luminous Dead, where Lolita definitely had me feeling some visceral emotions. So there's that. So that was my favorite and least favorite. What else do I have to talk about? Oh, my TBR stats. So my physical reading shelf was at 17 books last month. It is at 18 books this month. I think the one book I added was the Columbine book by Dave Cullen. I had a gift card to the indie bookstore in my town, and I just kind of went and looked. And I didn't go in thinking I was going to buy that book, but it has like a soft touch paperback cover. And that was enough to make me buy it. It just felt so nice in my hands. Anyways, so there's that. My Goodreads TBR went from 120 bucks to 118. I'm pretty sure it got a lot lower than that. And then I listened to the last episode of Lolita podcast by Jamie Loftus. And she recommended a whole bunch of books. It sounded really intriguing. Some memoirs and some like fiction books that kind of play on the topic of Lolita, I guess. Like she talked about My Dark Vanessa, which I loved reading this year. So I added some of those books to my TBR. So I think I actually read quite a bit of stuff that had been sitting on my TBR. They just got replaced by other books that I would like to read at some point. So who would have guessed that like Lolita rabbit hole was going to be a rabbit hole I went down this year? Not me. So those are that. I will also say I did read a book by an Indigenous author this month for the first time in like 3 months. So really pleased with that. I donated a book from the fall sale last year. So that also cleared a book off my physical TBR. Honestly, I probably should have donated a whole bunch of those books. But it was just the Detroit book. I kept looking at it, and the more I saw it, the less I wanted to read it. So I went ahead and got rid of that one. So those are the stats, the wrap up. Really pleased with how this reading month went, even though there was a lot of 3 stars. It was a really successful reading month all around. Hopefully we'll get back into the swing of weekly vlogs here soon. We'll also have hopefully Bookopoly stuff going on in these vlogs that I'll be doing through September. That is the goal, the hope, the dream. But I'm going to be doing roll as you go because I'm very much more of a mood reader. I just do not like setting out a TBR ahead of time. So that is the hope and the dream and the goal. But I am carrying over 3 books from August into September, so I want to finish at least one of those before I start Bookopoly. So there is that. I think that's really all I have to say. I am looking forward to getting back into the groove of vlogging and stuff. It's been a while since I have vlogged because I was on vacation. I attempted to kind of vlog that, but I actually didn't finish any books while I was on vacation like I anticipated. I brought like 5 books with me and didn't finish any of them. So there's that. Otherwise, I will see y'all next week. Have a great one. Bye.